All right, I think we fixed it. Sorry about that. I didn't notice that till way too late. Let me make sure that took. Yes, it did. Good. All right. Sorry about that. Welcome back to another thrilling installment of Wordy Wednesdays. I'm your intrepid narrator, Fregath, and this week we are going to be reading the final installment of one Absolution by Jeff Vandermeer, the fourth in the Southern Reach slash Area X series. Um, so previously on, the expedition that Lowry is on, it's not going well. Um, Area X, active Area X has whipped out all of its really, a lot of its freakiest possible things that could occur. A bunch of stuff that we have and have not seen before. Um, Stuff that isn't necessarily similar that isn't necessarily that isn't necessarily the same as what we've seen before, but is at least seems in the same general oeuvre as Area X's general weirdness that we have experienced. Um, Lowry is effectively alone at this point, as far as he knows, as alone as you can be in Area X. And this kind of leaves him high and dry because the guy supplying him with drugs, Landry, he's gone. His squeeze, Sky, is gone. Um, and his Fs, well, they're coming back. I shouldn't have said he's F-less. He's definitely not F-less. But yeah, he's the exped is a wash. So what is he gonna do? Well, I guess he can try and fulfill the mission that Jack Severance gave him, which is to find old Jim, preferably alive, I guess, is the implication, as well as the resources, money, that Jack left behind in active Area X. Well, in the area that is now active Area X. At the end of this, I think there's a couple of theories and ideas I'd like to throw around. If anybody's around at that point and wants to throw their ideas into the ring, please do not hesitate. I do not profess to understand what exactly is going on here, but I have some ideas. I also might as well read the acknowledgments that's at the end here while I'm at it once we get there. But yeah, I'll try and explain my reasoning for some of the ideas that I've got going on, specifically who the rogue is. And there's no guarantee that that's correct, but it is the thought based on and I'll provide evidence to support. It's not much, but it's something. All right. So yeah, with minimal ado, let's get rolling. Of course, it would help if I turned off the opening video image and switched to the cover image. Growl. Naturally. I don't look at my screen often. Have I mentioned this before? I don't think I do. I should probably mention I don't often look at my screen showing what's going on. All right, let me get a quick drink of water here and we'll get moving with the grooving. 3. The Dead Towns. Not enough fucked up stuff in barrels. Lowry cut the stupid fucking control words out of his sleeve. No Bible for him. The stupid fuck sounds Jack in the Box wanted him to say in front of old Jim for this turd of a mish within a mish, mood sour. If just Winters had headed destroyer bound, Lowry would have been fucking fine, and he and Sky could have fucked off into the next place like first place champions, if not for whatever brainworm decanted into her skull. There existed in his head a vision of Winters inhaling wrong on his dingy breath and being sucked into the valve, as if boneless, though perhaps that's not the way pumps worked either, and filling out the inside like he'd made a new suit for crossing the border, only it was a dinghy. And then, in his own damn boat of himself, Winters could have sailed for the destroyer like a fool for ballast. But now, instead, Lowry felt like dealing with old Jim in the old-fashioned way the man's name suggested. More satisfying to his fucking point, but also less blowback that way, of taking friendly fire, because he didn't trust Jack 1000%, more like 73, so leery of saying weird shit like no reflection in your coffee, or bats be birds, ye old sailor like the prophecy. No, it felt not at all modern what Lowry wanted to do to old Jim, even if back at Central the Warlocks and the Phantoms probably played strip poker based on hunches and faint seance breezes against the drapes of open balcony windows, hoping for a fuck-ugly flying wraith to crash land like a blue-footed booby right into them. The point was, Lowry would continue the mission on his own terms. Yet there was no purchase, and he kept slipping in his mind, and maybe Sky's choice felt like a personal curse or that he jumped too much at his own shadow, but none of the places Jack had told him to check panned out. In false daughter Cass's apartment, Lowry found fuck all, not even the goddamn frog terrarium Jack had told him to check. Water damage, some tables and chairs overturned. Some ruin of a moldy fruit in the fridge, now a green fungal geode. Nor old Jim's place, except the world's biggest, ugliest desk full of nothing, and papers strewn everywhere. And then, at what Lowry dubbed the Institute for Fucking Barrel Researchers, he found fucking goddamn shitty naught as well. Except the surprise of jellied dead bodies stuffed in some of the barrels and bad stuff in others, and it was like a fucking prize from hell he searched for, in being diligent, in doing his job. Like some large-scale jelly and jam preserves operation had gone all cannibal cult. "There's such a bunch of dead guys and poison in here," he said. "I said there's a bunch of really fucking dead people in fucking canisters in this place." Shouting now. "Is anyone gonna take responsibility? Anyone? Anyone at fucking all?" The reverberation revealing the tinny aftertaste in his own voice. It made the reality around him more permanent if he talked to himself now, so long as he never fucking replied to himself. Fuck, like some fucktoid doubling, some Winky Dinky's voice sneaking up on him, maybe even wearing a shitty polo shirt and cargo shorts. "Just a bunch of dead guys I do not know," nor what they had done to get shoved in barrels. He could swear as he stood there longer than he should have in front of the hall of barrels that a giggling came from all assembled, the barrels in their smug fucking rows, in that space like a swimming pool had been turned into a shit-performing arts center for barrels and their culture. Yet he had to check each one for the money that apparently did not goddamn exist. Nothing, nothing, nothing. He was nowhere. He was fucking lost. What could he do now? Continue to Dead Town or go back to the extraction point? He decided on Dead Town, tried to cultivate a good mood by talking to himself. But also talking to his sisters now, which wasn't a good sign. He finally had a comeback for them, but they were past caring. Mauve and Becca, the giant twins, who'd never had to deal with their fucking mom, who always made him do the stupid-ass things. Was it just because he always caved, or did she ask him first? He had thought she asked him first. Who knew now? As he trudged. Maybe a shithead followed him from behind, not good at the craft of being quiet and still. Lowry could track the figure over his shoulder all day long. So he knew, and yet there was some weird comfort in the companionship. Sometimes he cried out Landry's name, hoping for drugs, but really, Lowry wanted to cry out Sky's name, except she'd made her decision, chosen half a destroyer over him, chosen a beach of bones over him. Lowry didn't know how long it would take to get to Deadtown. A day, a year. If he were a motherfucking compass, he'd never know north again. Molt Revolt. Deadtown lived up to its name, and Lowry so sick of scenery he tried to fucking ignore the place until he made his objective. City Hall. Yeah, trees. Lots of fucking trees. A meadow. Marsh. The fucking usual. Move on. The first floor of City Hall felt stripped, and the walls had water damage, and the stupid fucking wallpaper they'd used, a blue with shells on it, had curdled to beige and faded as fuck vermilion stippled with black mold, and except for two desks that had been bolted to the floor, nothing else. Someone had cleared it as an infernal fucking dance hall, but anyway, some other helpful person had left in black paint arrows leading to the stairs, as if anyone in their right mind couldn't find the goddamn stairs in that place, there to the left, hugging the wall like even the stairs distrusted that empty, massive space, that hole opened up in the air by taking all the chairs and couches away. So fuck it, and la-dee-da, up the stairs it was, and he took them two at a time like a one-man storming unit, loping like a fucking wolf, scurrying like whatever scurrying thing pumped out death from a shark-like firearm that wasn't going to fucking turn into a creature and bury itself in the ground. Unusual shit didn't bother Lowry now, if it ever had fucking bothered him. On the second floor of City Hall in Deadtown, he found what had to be Jack's secret room, behind a disemboweled overturned chair, against the far wall of what he guessed must have been the world's worst fucking tourist center. Area X didn't want him to tarry here, Lowry felt, yet fucking tarry he would. Tarry as proper avenging Mish Wraith. Damn orange slice lamps hitting him in the face, and he bull china shopped the place to get to the crack in the wall. The crack that was a door into the secret room. Well, it had become less fucking secret over the years since Jack in the Box intelled it. Inside, the junk you found in secret fucking rooms. Stuff scrawled on the walls, a devil's pentagram of a bunch of diagrams on the floor, and burnt out pieces of gunk in the middle of each circle. Some fire-glazed glass jars cracked and in pieces. He wasn't about to fucking parse any of that. Leave it to the second expedition. There was no off switch in that dreck, which also held signs of recent ransack. In the far right corner he spied a wide, dirty stain like someone had vomited there, or the devil had pissed for an hour and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Big fucking surprise. And the far left corner held somebody's clump of dirty laundry. Well, maybe he'd check out the words on the wall first, then. He held his light up to it, everything fucking stuffy, full of damn pieces of lint almost looking like they were tiny filament worms writhing in his headlamp. No gold. No papers. So the words on the wall better fucking make up for it. Except it felt like nonsense, the parts he got, the parts he didn't. Like, who the hell was Gloria? Who the hell was this James guy? Commander fucking Thistle? Spawn of the devil scrawled into that circle. Some circle jerk of conspiracy? Long ago primitive bingo? Not so the fucked up names on the wall, in three precise columns. Because it was all the fucking names of the expedition, and was that meant to be some kind of joke? That some other expedition survivor had gotten here first and written that shit on the wall? That his name was circled along with Hargrave's and other now dead people? Pranksters sick of hiding from all the Twinkie Dinkies and Dunky Wunkies? Smacked of whom? Of what? He couldn't tell, dull thud in his brain of the inevitable knowledge. He knew next to nothing about his fellow expedition members. Had no idea of most of their predilections other than whom they were screwing, maybe what they liked to eat, and some scrumptious details from the secret files. So who would do that? He didn't know. He didn't even know who still fucking lived, except that he did. The more he looked at that list, and how it lived there among the mold and the lichen, and didn't lichen need sunlight to grow? The less he liked the list. The fucking less he wanted to look at that list, or see his own name there. Like it was not a roster, but an accusation. Like someone had been assigned to track down everybody on the goddamn list. The occult pan-dimensional pentagram bullshit on the floor still didn't interest him, but for various reasons Lowry turned to the dirty laundry in the left corner. From this middle distance it looked like some kind of slumpety-dumpety body lay within the clothes, all of which kind of fucking resembled a sleeping bag, except it was instead the sleeper. The uniform bugged him, the remnants of it, covering what he guessed had been a person wrapped in a blanket, but now all folded over on him or her, or maybe the him-her had gotten folded. Like somebody shot them in the back and they fell awkward and over time. Could that be a faded SR, coagulated on what might have been a sleeve? Fleeting shit-take thought. Had there been an expedition prior to the chicken? But no, it might not even be letters, but a kind of stylized snake with a registered nurse symbol. Fuck that. He hadn't come to Area X to solve ancient crimes, had he? Let some godforsaken commission of the future weigh in on cause of death. So he ransacked the strange pile for whatever he might find, and that was basically nothing. The corpse hadn't fallen dead on top of a bunch of money or papers. No, nothing easy on this mish. But on top of the remains of maybe a jacket, maybe just a fucking bunch of raincoat tatters, or who the hell knew, he found a scrap of paper with words writ fucking large upon it. Do not eat. Do not eat? Who fucking put do not eat on whatever the fuck these remains were? Like a fucking enticement. Do not eat? Yeah, eat. Eat everything. Eat every goddamn morsel of everything. Do not eat. What weak tea fucker from the expedition had gotten here first and written that? He totally could eat it, especially now that he saw it might be more like sloughed off skin, deep epidermis, not a jacket at all. In the right light, of which there was little in this gloom dungeon, it might even appeal. Peel. Peel the skin, Lowry. Peel it. You mean like eat the fucking body? The fucking dead body of a dead fucking person? Then he wished he'd not said it aloud, because now he knew what lay in front of him. That it was more than skin. And also it sounded even more batshit than in his head. But also he sounded fucking scared in his voice. But in his mind his voice was powerful and roared out in a non-frightened way. So what was this damned twat voice that leapt out of him so quick and easy? It was a goddamn traitor, this fucking voice. He should reach down into his fucking throat and find this traitor and... A folded up dead person that had been here for fucking years. Yeah, who the fuck did that? Eat this guy who'd been lying here like some pensioner waiting for a bus that would never come because there was no fucking bus and because the person was already dead. Do not eat. But that must mean eat? Jesus fuck. Eat a dead person. He recoiled from that, sat against the wall, wondering what he should do. He hadn't found a shitting thing Jack-in-the-Box had ordered him to bring back. Like he was some fucking barrel boy. And Jack had told him to do anything, whatever it takes. A smell came to him then. Or more, that he became aware of a smell that had always been there. It was an amazing smell, like vanilla and lavender, but not frou cloy fucking. No, wait, it was a savory smell, like chicken in a pot of spices, the simmering scent of that, rising from the stove, curling into the living room on a cold fall day. A taste bud tingling smell. Coming from the dead skin husk fucking cast off wax dribbling figure fucker hidden inside that improbable possible jacket. Secret, self contained, solitary as an oyster. Shit. It smelled so good, and nary a fucking small woodland creature he'd managed to bag, even since free of the Southern Reach's fucked up policy on the matter. A good broth on a winter's day. The way the broth would bubble with those golden bubbles, each one on the surface breaking open to add to a salivating scent. If the pile smelled that good, maybe it would taste fucking great too. And any texture infirmities just the price to be fucking paid for. Finally getting a good meal in this hovel, this shithole, this bed and breakfast from hell he would not be fucking recommending to anyone. His mouth watered and he teared up. Oh, it was such a fucking succulent smell. It would have to be a taste of manna. It would taste like moist chicken breast or slow marinated pork where the meat just fell off the bone. It could be the chicken from the first expedition, Whitby's chicken, and he would still eat the fuck out of it. Yes, just think of it as a fowl. A fattened fowl could be a lighthouse and a delicious gorge. Don't be disgruntled or discouraged by what it looked like. If a thing camouflaged itself, that was nothing to do with him. He reached his hand out and touched the remembered accordion flubber sweat of the foot part, the tangled shank of leg part, and found that it now had the perfect crispy texture of the skin on a perfectly cooked turkey. That golden glazed magnificence that made it crinkle and crackle, releasing more of that delicious, fucking warm aroma. It brought back memories from the farmhouse as a kid, the truce and peace, sometimes, of holiday dinner, with a chicken, goose, or, yes, turkey, and his sisters so ravenous they put down the verbal boxing gloves and abandoned his prone, insult-punched body out in the field to run back into the house to bask in the steam rising off the sacred bird. Oh, Lord, how could Lowry fucking resist? Slowly, still sitting against the wall, he pulled the husk toward him, foot first, until the delicate, wafer-thin heel lay clenched in his hand like a fucking unique communion. The heel smelled like the best spices on the best meat in the world, and he didn't bother fucking much about what. And he didn't bother. Yep, no, that's what it says. And he didn't bother fucking much about what kind of meat. What kind of meat? There, let's try that sentence again. The heel smelled like the best spices on the best meat in the world, and he didn't bother fucking much about what kind of meat. There we go. Now it makes sense. The texture, though, felt to his touch almost as bad as when in the shower he'd backed into an ex-girlfriend, butt to butt, and he'd recoiled like her butt was an alien, or his was, and it was just wrong. That was so fucking wrong, that two butts should touch. So maybe this would be wrong too. Yet it was with only a little hesitation that he tore a piece of foot husk off with his teeth, contemplated a taste that lit up his buds so fucking hard he almost got an erection. How could he taste a whole feast in one bite? One fucking bite, and he was raptured and in heaven, for the texture changed in his mouth, and under the crispy crumbling of the skin there came a cooked through sensation as of pork fat nibbled off the bone, and under that some sort of thin layer that brought him back to the chicken, a brined and butter slathered chicken. But also gathered around like friends at a holy last dinner, with no fucking Judas to betray Lowry, all the other dishes as aftertaste, a Christmas miracle. A great joint of meat, suckling pigs, long wreaths of sausages, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, cornbread stuffing, the fucking cranberry sauce, the fucking green bean casserole, the fucking mashed potatoes, the seething bowls of punch, and, after, the pies for dessert, and the eggnog. Despite this vision, he did not feel full despite all of this satisfying heaviness invading his fine, flat belly. With each bite, Lowry felt hungrier still, so that he could not get enough. Bay leaves and wine for a stew with the remains later, if only he could find fucking bay leaves and wine. And was that wrong the more he tasted and the meal more like fondue? Dipper or dippy? He devoured the first leg, then thought better of his gluttony, but then fucking hungry again, still with one eye on the cursed watermark, Lowry pulled the other fucking leg to him, and that too soon gone, until he had no fucking choice but to kneel over the rest of the remains and shove handfuls of collapsed pelvis and torso husk into his mouth, to unpile that fucking delicious feast, such that he could eat the goddamn thing down to the last bite, the torso soon just some chest, and with some difficulty Lowry pulled the neck and head out from underneath. He had known on some level that this fucking moment of truth awaited him. Could he who hated the head of a fucking fish included with his dinner stomach eating a fucking face? But Lowry had not expected that he would recognize the fucking face. Whitby Allen's face. Fuck, 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 fuck. He shoved the head and neck away from him, jammed himself into a sitting position up against the wall again. But as he watched, Whitby's face ballooned to the top of the neck and torso because Lowry hadn't fucking put it all back properly. Whitby's face sat there staring at him, accusing him when he'd done nothing fucking wrong. He hadn't killed Whitby and eaten him. He'd just come across some human remains and eaten them because they smelled so fucking good. And who could blame a man for that, given how much of a remnant the expedition was, and oh shit, was he going insane? Was this what it felt like? No, it was entirely rational, his decision. Oh shit, it was not. Yes, it was. No, it was not. Yes, it was. It was not. Yes, it was. No, it was not. Yes, it fucking was. I'm sorry, Whitby, Lowry said to the husk. I'm so fucking sorry, friend. But was he Lowry's friend? I didn't mean it. I mean, I meant it at the time, but I wouldn't have done it if I'd known it was you. I mean, I probably would have done it if I knew it was you, but maybe not. Hard to tell. But it's done now. It's done now, Whitby. Fuck, 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 fuck. Fuck? Whitby fucking Allen. Except Whitby fucking Allen was an also-ran back at the good old SR building, probably having a confab with a bunch of deep-sea fish in jars right about fucking now. Not out here. Not on the expedition. So reason told Lowry that this couldn't be Whitby, which meant it must be some kind of motherfucking illusion cast by some twat off stage, somebody who deserved a goddamn smack for whatever the point of this was. To test or trick them even after deployment? To trap them into passive fucking cannibalism? With no punchline other than that he'd already eaten so much of Whitby that what did a fucking face matter? In some cultures, Lowry imagined eating a local animal's face was a fucking delicacy, and once again, anyway, he felt empty, 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 and all that could fill him was not Whitby's stupid not face. All that could satisfy. It wasn't Whitby. It couldn't be Whitby. So it was fucking fine. What would Whitby do? He asked aloud, and hated the echo of woodity-woodity-doo-doo. Well, he replied, because no one else could, Whitby would eat Whitby's face. Itchby wheat hitchby ace. As he said it, he knew it was fucking true. The weird white pretzel would eat his own face. In the name of science. Yes, he would. In memory of the chicken. Wouldn't you, you sick fuck, Whitby? Not Whitby. Someone else. Something else. Something else. And hadn't he already taken a bite out of a wall? So Lowry took Whitby's face with both hands, and he crunched down on the fallen-in nose part, which tasted in a satisfying way like marrow and gristle, and he used that inverted promontory to get enough of a grip with his teeth to tear the rest and eat it strip by delicious strip, the neck perhaps the most fucking fragile and delicate, and with its own form of gustatory bliss. Then, when not a scrap was left, Lowry sighed, burped, and returned, sleepy, to the wall. It had been the best meal he had ever had, even though he didn't think he knew any more after the devouring than fucking before. If anything, Lowry felt he understood less and less. But at least he felt full. Finally fucking full. Tyrant to King's Dread. Up on the messed up roof, Lowry paused to think about his next move, to digest, to take in the view back toward the sea. Felt like he stood astride an old fort, a fucking alien installation. What was with these fake crenellations and the ghastly fucking barren stucco, the years of seepage and intrusion? How for a very long goddamn time there had been no fucking body to see the view, to know what had happened just below. Not that he'd been expecting an infernal tour guide, because who knew if that was original or double or triple in this stupid place? Lowry could see far into the estuary, into the golden light and the scattering of palm trees, gnarled swamp oaks, and, beyond, the coast. Tiny, but the fucking lighthouse still blared out, flared green in waves, and the marshes seemed light-fucked by the green tendril molecules reaching out like the fake fucking animation of a bad fantasy flick. As if Area X chose not to let him believe it was real, but only some acetate overlay about to burn from the heat seek of his regard. Some fucking onion skin, almost not there, and yet so powerfully there he felt some fear for a second. This was bullshit. He'd never find gold bars or money or whatever the fuck Jack thought old Jim had been sitting on, incubating, whatever. Not even find old Jim. And Area X would do what it wanted to do, and it might take 100 years, Lowry saw now, to learn all its stupid fucking complex behaviors, cultures, its needs and wants, no matter how slowly expressed or fucking perverse. He had just eaten a fake Whitby Allen's body molt and was not in the mood for more motherfucking magic tricks. There were two tired Yes, tired, not teared. There were two tired folding chairs drenched in old spattered blood, like blood that had been poured in unending quantities and spilled all over the floor. Did he even care? No, he fucking did not. Whatever he might have cared about had fucked off in a boat. What he'd thought might just be loose planks had revealed itself as the splattered remains of a piano come apart in a pile on the roof. Next to a corner so perpetually flooded and yet not fallen in, but one glorious damn day, that tiny fish lived there amid the algae and spinning insects. That world had a border too, and he could stamp through those waters like a fucking demon or god if he wanted to. But he felt merciful because so shaken, and he held the fuck back, did not do the bad thing. Time and gravity would do it for him, and the little fish would pour down to the third-story floor and have to fucking hope it had also become a porous reservoir. I'm going to reread that sentence. I mangled it. Time and gravity would do it for him, and the little fish would pour down to the third-story floor and have to fucking hope it also had become a porous reservoir. Then it was true dusk, sudden, brutal, and the lighthouse burnt unbearably bright, so that the green light bled in wisps of coronary, in fingers beckoning, until he thought it might be all a disinformation of his eyes, like the black spots, and the landscape lay fucking inert and black and barren, but only his eyes blazed, his vision turned inward, his eyeballs just a miniature planetary playground for the fucking animating impulse behind Area X. Winters had the bad fortune to intervene then, to appear then like a fucking jack-in-the-box, but not jack-in-the-box, out of the stairwell, as if an apparition conjured by a fatal lack of fucking caring. Because Lowry had thought him dingy banished, explicitly wished not to fucking see him, he had popped up. A warning to Lowry to take better damn care to banish by fixation on, in this case, Winters from his life. "I got free of that destroyer stuff," Winters said. "Uh-huh. Yeah, really. Dead end, just like you said. To you?" He wanted to say, "And Sky," but knew that was just a trap, that Area X wanted to punish him for eating the molt, or wanted whatever the molt had been. But did he know what Area X wanted or didn't want? "Yeah, you said that to me, Lowry," Winters said, even though Lowry knew his "to you" had been fucking-biguous. "You followed me here?" Winters smiled long and hard and sharp. "Oh, I've been here a long time. I didn't have to follow you." Lowry nodded at the truth of that. Who really had to follow anyone in Area X? You just poked a hole in the map and there you were. "I've got scales turning into eyes all over your body, Lowry." "So do I, Winters. So I fucking do. Thanks for pointing that out, even though I don't think you were supposed to tell me that. Very kind of you." Maybe that's why he felt heavy yet light, like he was both opening up and closing down. Yet it seemed unimportant, impotent, fucking stupid, as if the king below and his alligator had no import and their inane convo had some kind of weight it should never have fucking had. Did not have. Because he was seeing Whitby astride a giant greenish-white alligator down below, just walking by as casually as a fucking tourist procession, and he knew that wasn't fucking true. That was not fucking true. "Did you see what's down below?" Lowry asked. "Did you see what's down below?" Lowry asked, pointing over the edge through a gap in the faux fortifications. "What is it?" Winters asked, looking down and having located something weird, or pretending to. Jesus. "What is it?" Winters asked, looking down and having located something weird, or pretended to, Lowry guessed. Lowry shoved him over the edge, featherweight, anvil fall, and he landed with all too much fucking sound. Be fucking still. Be fucking still. Be silent. Rest. Winters had not been real, any more than Whitby, than Lowry felt. Funny how Winters looked more like Formsby, or was it Fussell, lying there all broken. But even that, how he'd broken so easily and lay there not moving, felt like provocation. Felt like if he hadn't been Winters, then he hadn't been Formsby or Fussell either. That Lowry had been right to push him, and maybe the mercy that he hadn't winky-dinkied him instead. Rest in pieces. Return unto Area X from whence you fucking came. Yeah, that was it. R.I.P. Rip, rip, rip. His hands shook as he watched the fucking pyrotechnics out in the marsh for a while, which might just be in his eyes. The stars came into focus, went out of focus. They oppressed Lowry, dug into his head. He was watching them too hard, or they were communicating too much, seeking something. He felt something rising up he could not identify or control, but that clutched at the heart of him. A sadness or an underlying terror that could only be satiated by additional excess, until even that thrill faded and something more extreme beckoned. Maybe he would still do as Jack had asked. Maybe he should fuck off to the village bar now. Maybe this was where all this had been heading. Man, did he miss Landry. There had been a pen pal for life, a conversation partner, a good fix, a bad fix. It was all the same. Horse tongues. It fucking was and fucking wasn't Whitby, who now, like a horse's tongue slapped atop a butcher's block, a meaty, fleshy tongue was slapping atop his head, carcass caress descending into that place now porous between grey matter and skull, as if a rough and continual licking had occurred, like when he woke after a night of debauchery on someone's lawn, with a cat licking his face, but one lick only, and the weight of it just fucking lay there, made him stumble, catch himself, adjust. Slopped and slopped, then disintegrated into his brain like the surface of his brain was full of holes, and the thing that was Whitby yet not, turned from fat tongue to thin soup stock, had drained right into his mind. Colander, liquid, and maybe it would pass through, and he would be undamaged. Except it changed again, so it was 100 fingers in a bowling ball that had 100 holes, and he was with his giant sisters in the local alley, with a skating rink and the smell of loaner bowling shoes and the rancid figure skates, and the one telling him to hurry up and the other just shrugging with her huge soft drink and making sounds with the straw, the ice, the dregs as he tried to line up the pins, except he'd never line them up. Gutter balls for a solid century. A tongue like a pile of meat, like a carcass, a flesh carcass tossed atop a butcher's block, and the weight made him repetitious, a weight his mind could not shake off, dislodge, that began, slowly, to dissolve into his brain, so he began to understand what he felt as a tongue was another brain lying atop his own, as if both had been decanted from their skulls and tossed on a pile, and still able to feel the odd sensation of that, numb, but not the pain. Not the glistening blood agony of that, the snail track of red pleading out. Imperfect, the meal to the appetite, or why would he feel anything at all? Why couldn't it be seamless? Though where this thought came from he did not know. As if he were the meal now and someone gorging on him. As if Whitby's face had disagreed with him, and as he breathed now, a sparkle of golden dust pressed out of him and forayed out from the pores, so that he was expressing the moult, releasing it as it released him, so that he became a kind of vessel, but also a candle and a flame. While the idea of mind dissipated until there was only the lagoon of clear blue water that was his mind, haloed with reeds, and Whitby's presence a school of golden fish at the core that multiplied and spread out in ever vaster circles, to every corner of him, and each particle, each fish, strove to join itself by filament to every other fish floating inside the vessel that was Lowry, and within each new connection he could see the world more like Whitby, or this hybrid thing that had taken on the appearance of Whitby, that had been Whitby for a time, but also had a reptilian eye, a carious eye staring at him from the one sec. Sorry, I hope I caught that in time. Where were we? These sentences are run on as hell, so I might have to go back a ways. Yeah, okay. Back to the beginning of that sentence, insanity though it is. While the idea of mind dissipated until there was only the lagoon of clear blue water that was his mind, haloed with reeds, and Whitby's presence a school of golden fish at the core that multiplied and spread out in ever vaster circles, to every corner of him, and each particle, each fish strove to join itself by filament to every other fish floating inside the vessel that was Lowry, and with each new connection he could see the world more like Whitby, or this hybrid thing that had taken on the appearance of Whitby, that had been Whitby for a time, but also had a reptilian eye, a carious eye staring at him from the bottom of the lagoon, through the golden fish, and fuck, but resisting meant not seeing it, not feeling it for what it really was, but his mind pulling up these constructs so he wouldn't go mad. He'd come this fucking far and had far still to fucking go, but he wanted to make it out in a raw, animalistic way, no matter what had overtaken him and was still overtaking him. No worries, there's only a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oh, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 line sentence there. No matter what had overtaken him and was still overtaking him. The way it had patience. The way it had depth, and how it hid when it had to, came out when it must, the measure of what it had to do, the way it had to do it, and the future it came from. How it came from so far away in time, and suddenly Lowry was there. Air, was water. So I can't easily read that bit out aloud in a way that makes sense as it is portrayed in the text, but suffice it to say it goes in a slope. It is there, then down and to the right a little, air, A-I-R, down and to the right a little, was air, down and to the right a little, was water. So it does a little visual pattern that looks like something, a hill, a diagonal line, a hypotenuse. For water lived there, and everything was water, and nothing was water. How it weighed upon Lowry, a presence had weighed upon it, gauged it, and thus it must be disguised, must be water, must be death, be dead, be inert. He'd come chasing down something, had gone wrong but right, and now existed out there again, waiting for a time to wake, was asleep except now forever in a corner of Lowry's mind. Across that haunted landscape Lowry strode, and he did fucking appreciate how it changed and kept changing, but not how the fucking rabbits kept appearing and winking out, so he knew they were just in his brain, but he could not stop them from being like malfunctioning toasters or strings of Christmas lights, except they were nothing like that at all, but lunging and snapping at him, only to fade the fuck away into golden dust. While he grasped at the dust as it left him, as if it were a fucking as if he were a fucking stuffed teddy bear, and the dust his stuffing, and when the fucking stuffing left him, he'd be done. He was done, sorry. That was it. Lowry was over as a reality and a fucking concept. Let's reread that chunk so it makes more sense. While he grasped at the dust as it left him, as if he were a fucking stuffed teddy bear, and the dust his stuffing, and when the fucking stuffing left him, he was done. That was it. Lowry was over as a reality and a fucking concept. Whitby not, the changeling, this rogue become restless within him and wanting out. Wanting to leave Lowry, although Lowry wasn't ready for that somehow, to be without the changeling, despite the terror, despite the way he sweat dust, as he sweat. So he was disgustingly wet and dry at the same fucking time. And the dust spiraled out of him like he was a human fucking crop duster, earthbound scarecrow, still walking out among the fields to contaminate them. The fucking enormity, the puzzle of it, as if a changeling molt told him things sideways, even as the dust still left him, and the ghost rabbits bit and clawed and fell away, and fucking all of his remaining eye senses and sound senses keeping to the fucking trail through reeds and through limestone terrain, keeping his compass only by the radiating blade of the lighthouse beam, so ever and always the only destination he could have was the lighthouse, or he'd never make it. No instinct within him that could compensate for all his senses overlaid and overloaded this way. How Whitby came from the future but inhabited the past, and the one he'd met at the southern reach innocent of either, still peering out at him from the cafeteria corner, talking to him of blather tot and chicken-knots, but the molt owner lay out in the swamps, the marshes, whatever the fuck you called that blue lagoon, and he'd stay that way for centuries. That was the thing that almost broke Lowry's brain in the overlay, that this Whitby-Not was going to resurrect himself into a future that did not include him, fully repaired from some catastrophic systems failure, and hoped the future he came back into was the one he'd saved. From the rabbits? Lowry couldn't grok it to save his life, the way the changeling's brain and his brain meshed like two different kinds of nets cast out on water that interfered with each other. So he had to just grit it out, thought fuck of the drug experiences of Landry and of what, fuck, Landry's advice would be, and that would be, ride it out. Landry would also probably tell him to just lie down for a while, but Lowry felt a powerful fucking urge to put Deadtown behind him, and so he kept stumble walking through the visions in his brain. A halo of gold surrounding the clearest blue. Out there in what could be 1,000 places and not wake for centuries. No Winky Dinky could compete with that. An astronaut who had never left Earth, fighting an enemy toward entropy. The glimpses of an army and a cleft between two mountains under what had been the ocean. The way all of the earth and the sky and the water had become a refuge for those who were left. How they had, willing to change, slopped their way into a different way of being, like seagulls yoking into the waves. And it became fucking clear to Lowry, or maybe not clear, but distinct, like some goal on the horizon that he might or might not be able to describe to Skye if he ever saw her again, like a goal in physical form, an objective, a fucking freak objective, that what they called Area X wanted the past too, and that was what freaked Lowry out so much he almost pissed himself. The casual way the changeling's molt told him that the world was gone already. That it might last a few more decades, but it was fucking toast, or most of it. That the fucking thing they fought in here, the way it had no central nervous system, no fucking sorcerer who came out from behind the curtain so Lowry could shoot him in the fucking eyeball, that this thing wanted the past too, in an automatic, thoughtless way, so that there could be no future but its future, no ability to adapt. He could see, even as it faded out of him with the dust, like he was a broken hourglass, so no point in turning him over, how Central had meddled in the business of the Forgotten Coast, and how Area X had homed in on that first occurrence, that first appearance of its enemy, and attempted a beachhead there by redirecting what the Southern Reach itself sent through the border, at some point in the nearish future, that Lowry had not yet experienced, but I've got to reread this because I'm mangling it. It's a long sentence, and if the lines were twice as long, it might be easier to work with. Have I mentioned this book is challenging? It's challenging. He could see, even as it faded out of him with the dust, like he was a broken hourglass, so no point in turning him over, how Central had meddled in the business of the Forgotten Coast, and how Area X had homed in on that first occurrence, that first appearance of its enemy, and attempted a beachhead there by redirecting what the Southern Reach itself sent through the border at some point in the nearish future that Lowry had not yet experienced, but maybe he could stop it, except that the Changeling wasn't trying to stop Area X, but to just make sure everything happened as it had already happened. That the Area X Lowry had fucking experienced was the best possible outcome. That Area X would never not happen. There was no off switch. There was no other time in which it faded away or was not activated. But if it colonized the past, then everything would get worse, worse, worse. With the rabbits now came glimpses of the earth the changeling came from, the colossus of ghosts of the alien that manifested, in time, after Area X had expanded. The relics of civilizations from wherever Area X had come from, manifesting, glimmering like a mirage, like poems never completed, but it wasn't fucking real. It couldn't be real, this future overlaid upon the marshes. Neither circular nor square, but in some pattern or geometry that hurt his brain or made his gaze fucking slide away. He could not look at them directly, like he was a wood plank going through a buzzsaw when he tried, and through an open door he saw split him. Oh. And through an open door, as the saw split him in half, came the unbearable light of the sun. As he tried to see past the sun, he was being torn apart, even if there was no pain, but just the crackle and wince of the bleeding light. These fantastical visions he could not quite credit, that he distrusted, as if they were the residue of drugs he had taken, was still taking. How there came across the face of the earth such change, such decay and stillness and absorption, that how could the violence of that, well beyond Lowry's own fucking capacity for violence, the sheer negation of human life, not be understood as an extinction event? No matter who lived now in the water, no matter how Whitby not had risen from that time and come back into Area X, that all might remain the same, so that Area X might be as it was now, that he might be as he was now. How that felt like the most cracked, fucked up thing. That if granted the wish of any other fucking reality, it would be worse than there. There would be no space for any human soul as the world spun farther off its rotation in the sense of the seasons, the terrain changing as Area X transformed it, and there was so much more spinning out of him with the golden dust and dissipating into the night that made him sad. How the details could not live with him long enough, that he could not see his place in this, that in a way he'd never felt from the real Whitby, some ghost of an influence in his head, some wraith of a cosmonaut stared out hostile at him and did not wish him to survive this, to know these things, and perhaps he would know none of them again when all the dust was gone, but also now he panicked that he would never be the same and began to run toward the lighthouse, as if the lighthouse could save him, but really what he hoped is that he would find Sky there, and, yes, even Winters, and that he could explain this all to them before it left him. Because it was leaving him at an ever more fucking rapid rate. Then, maybe, he would be a real hero. Maybe then he would be a fucking god. Lowry became himself again in front of the lighthouse in darkness lit by the sliver of a moon that should not shine so bright, the destroyer still there on the horizon, but no tinkling, pleasant sound of waves over bones. Above, the stars no longer shone, but scattered across the sky, like creatures scuttling along the convex surface of a massive planetarium. He'd run out of drugs. He'd run out of molt. He'd run out of F again. The golden dust had left him entirely, and he felt flat, unapproachable. The things that energized him disgusted him. Whitby had done that to him, or Whitby's clone, and it was beyond his understanding. He kept close, vague memories, said nothing he'd learned aloud, for fear it would escape like the dust into the air and be lost to him. The lighthouse lay dull and dark, like the night after a rave. No green light, just the lighthouse from mission briefings, but with fortifications now, facing the sea. He did not know how much time had passed. He never knew, now, how much time had passed. The idea of time seemed too ponderous an idea, that it should exist at all, or he had become a ghost and existed on the other side of some invisible barrier. Spilling out from the mouth of the lighthouse, he could see bodies, the lighthouse clogged with them. Hundreds of bodies, an ever-flowing river of bodies, and as he drew near he could see that they were, every last one of them, the reoccurring body of Henry from the S&SB, dressed in black, that oval, pale face unmistakable even in a final sleep. Such a torrent of dead Henrys that they led out to the beach, and somehow he knew that if he waited until morning, these bodies would once more turn into a beach of bones, and there would not be a trace of them on the lighthouse steps. But Lowry was headed elsewhere, would not pine for Sky on that beach, give neither lighthouse nor destroyer the satisfaction. His fucks would return, his self would return, he knew, if he just kept going to the end. Village dump. The village was a dump. Pure fucking dump, and Lowry had come down from both the spirit world highlights of eating Whitby creatures. Oh gosh. The village was a dump. Pure fucking dump, and Lowry had come down from both the spirit world highlights of eating Whitby creatures' molt and the dregs of Landry's drugs. So, low on fucks, but also drained like the golden dust had also been, in part, his blood. Pure and utter dump. Not a vacay or top ops spot. The wind-racked landscape shoved low to the ground in places between the relics of huts and stone, the sun a howling red halo, pierced by the spikes of reeds, and, best of all, redeeming even, no sign of the freaky deakies, the permeable people, the winky dinkies. And everywhere, on every wall, as if to test Lowry's patience in another way, the graffiti tag of T.O.T. Here, there, any goddamn where. T.O.T. Everywhere a T.O.T., 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 T.O.T, tot, tot, tot. Tot T.O.T. fucking T.O.T. and Whitby, the real Whitby, back at Central, had warned him about T.O.T., but what in the flying fuck did T.O.T. mean? T.O.T., 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 fucking T.O.T. It was going to drive him fucking nuts. Fucking T.O.T. Fuckling T.O.T. And the only satisfaction was that his pilot light had come back, and the molting, the urge to eat the molt, the utter ravenous desire to shove all of it into his mouth had become an ancient mariner memory from fucking centuries back. Nor did he feel sediment or sentiment passing by the messages for loved ones on the wall outside the village bar. This community bulletin board for all who had disappeared, including those who had left the messages. It had no import, no power, felt obscene. Obscenity. So late now, so fucking behind where the times had left them. So he tore them down before he went inside. The sentimentality. The misunderstanding of the truth of their situation. It enraged him, or felt like an affront. But to whom? So he tore them all off the wall. He lit into those messages like they were the enemy, and down they came until the path leading to the village bar was strewn with the trash of that, and the balled-up negation of that, and he might be weeping, but fuck those tears. It wasn't what his brain was receiving, but what his body had endured to that point. Lost son, Burke, call if seen. Saul, if you see this, I'm in Bleekersville. I'm safe. Taking in who I can down on the street at 6:20. No, no, no. Then Lowry had crept inside, shut the door behind him as if it were the door to an airlock, and outside lay the unforgiving vacuum of space as he breathed heavy and deep of the safe air inside. Even if the roof hung low across the far right corner, over a shitty little stage, and the counter itself had been ripped and defiled, flanked by fallen-over stools, and on the wall behind the bar the off-kilter dozens of frames of mostly motley fucked-up-looking men, like a tribute to drowned sailors who had been bad at their jobs. And what was he looking for in this place where the fatal fucking fool known as Old Jim had lived part of his life, explained his face to strangers, been acting a role? And now here was Lowry, just trying to get by plundering his files, his stolen gold that appeared to live nowhere in the whole fucking universe that was Area X. There, lost in the middle of an alien catastrophe, and yet still Lowry cared. Still Lowry hoped to return to the ordinary, normal world, a rich man. That he had decided. No dead here, just overturned tables and chairs, a half-crushed piano in the middle left corner, facing the door, and no one on the bench. It was a place to start, a place to look, old Jim's piano, and something spilling out of the crushed and broken left side, in envelopes. So that he crept through the debris to that breach, to fucking investigate, hopeful he might find what he needed, what Jack wanted. He knelt in front of the vast flow of letters, more than he could have guessed from the door, and they did not have the look of wealth, the look of money. He opened first one and then another, noting the music sheets from Winter Journey on the stand and the blood on the keys. But they were all letters to Cass, and which Cass was that? But from the dates Lowry knew it must be the fucking prehistoric one, before old Jim had come to the Forgotten Coast for his brief sojourn, and no help to Lowry, though he opened more and more, in hopes that this had been the way old Jim hid Jack's money, amid the terrible fucking pathetic wreckage of his non-life, his pathetic anti-life, this spook of a spy who had caused so much trouble in the end for Jack that here he was, mighty fucking Lowry, on his hands and knees, tearing through pages that pleaded, that raged, that seemed to contain every emotion and every variation of syntax and speech, from formal and fluid to informal and rigid, and yet all of it no more intelligible to Lowry than T-O-T, 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 T-O-T. Taught. Taught. Those last two taughts are T-A-U-G-H-T and T-A-U-T. Have I mentioned that Jeff Vandermeer likes wordplay and homophones? Fuck it. He tossed letters away from himself, chucked them away from himself, threw them across the room, still felt awash in them, drowning in them, and what the fuck did he care what happened to them now? Except, unexpectedly, Karen Hargraves stood there, in the doorway, staring at him, and his startlement gave way to relief, gave way to something like wariness, and even a little spike of fear. "Hargraves!" he called out, too loud, like she stood on the other side of a canyon. "You're alive!" She moved not at all, but stood rigid, alert, watching him, while he suppressed the instinct to step closer. Something told him not to. But finally, there's a comma there. He has so many commas. I'm skipping some of his commas, by the way, I regret to say. But, finally, she gave him a smile, if grim, and she came a few steps farther into the bar, closing the door behind her. Lowry missed the light that disappeared, that she seemed to eclipse. "So you made it, Lowry," she said, but something in her tone did not reassure, and he kept one hand on his rifle, in case she winky-dinkied or walkie-talkied or slick-tongued over his brain. "The others make it?" Lowry meant the side expedition that Skye had sent to the village. "No, Lowry, they did not," said like she was closing another door. "That's a shame," he said. "That's a damn shame." Although, did he care? At all? He couldn't be sure. "How'd you survive?" she asked, although Lowry frowned, thinking he should be asking her that fucking question. Like, she was doubting that he had survived, though he stood in front of her. "The usual way," Lowry said. Unusual ways. "I survived because it turns out I don't work out there. I'm part tragedy out there. But this place, here I do well." "I'll take your word for it," Lowry said diplomatically. "You like this place?" He had a genuine fucking curiosity, which surprised him. "I do." "You'd rather be here and dead than out there and alive?" Lowry didn't know if he meant her or, in that moment, himself, but Hargraves said, "I don't think that's the choice. Not any more." "It's been hard for you," Lowry said, trying to sound sympathetic. Hargraves laughed. "Hard. Well, yeah, no one knew it would be like this, did they? Walk in the park, you said. Although you also said titty and glory hole a lot, Lowry, so maybe we shouldn't have listened to you so much. What do you think?" Lowry thought he didn't like that, the memory on that, the memory it took to fixate on such trivia, but she was already busy wrong-footing him again. "Going through Jim's letters to his daughter, I see," Hargraves said, "rooting through them like a rat." He ignored the insult. "Did he really have a daughter?" he asked, only because he didn't know what the fuck else to say.
Hargraves ignored him. There's nothing in the letters that will help you. No off switch, no intel, so you might decide to put them down and leave them be. You might even decide to clean up your mess and put them all back in the piano. Lowry realized that his hand that did not hold the rifle still held letters, and he didn't know how long Hargraves had stood there, watching him ball up and rip them. Bleh. And he didn't know how long Hargraves had stood there, watching him ball them up and rip them up and otherwise try to destroy them. He dropped the ones he held as quickly as if they'd burst into flames. "So, you know about old Jim," Lowry said. "Did you happen to know where he is now?" He noticed that Hargraves had a wicked-looking handgun in addition to a first-rate sniper's rifle, and that the handgun had appeared in her right hand at some point while they talked, and she'd somehow affixed a silencer to it, very fast. And that this fact confused him in a fundamental way. "I do happen to know where he is now," Hargraves said, but did not elaborate. "Well, where is he?" Lowry asked. "I've been here long enough to figure out Jim, Lowry. To figure out lots of things." And there was a flame burning in her eyes now that he also didn't understand. "So brief me," Lowry said, trying to sound casual, and yet they both stood there rigid at 20 feet, like they were about to draw down on each other. Whether Old West or old-fashioned duel, he had no fucking idea, except it seemed like a sad waste in either direction, should it come down to it. He didn't want to kill her, but he'd proven recently he could. "Pretty clear what happened," Hargraves said. "He was sitting at the piano, and Area X was changing him, and at some point I think he went outside to that little bridge. You know it? Of course you don't, but I do. And he was in agony by that point, Lowry. He was injured, and his nerves were shot, and he was probably hallucinating because the border was about to come down, and he was afraid. He was so afraid and so alone, and I wasn't there for him, and neither were you, you stupid fuck." "Hey, Hargraves, maybe you could—" He'd wanted her to turn down the aggro, but she was already barreling through him, uninterrupting. "He'd lost a hand, and, from the evidence, the other was eating him, slowly. And he sat down on the bridge, waiting for the dawn. And then he died. He died alone on the bridge, waiting for help. And, eventually, I came along and found him. Or I found the husk that Area X had left of him." "Is that right, Hargraves?" he said, wondering if he could reach for his gun before she got a shot off. Wondering how the fuck she was scaring the shit out of him. "Yes, that's right, Lowry." And now he could tell she was mocking him, and the moment felt even more wrong. "Maybe he's still kind of alive then, if he left a husk," Lowry said. "Maybe you could just show me the—" "Shut up." When he'd imagined a reunion with another exped member, other than a false one thrown off the roof for good reason, it hadn't felt like this, hadn't been like this. He'd instead confided all he'd learned, all the wisdom, all the knowledge he'd retained from Whitby Knott's molt, and what it meant, and, yes, the urgency of that warned him off speaking somehow, because he felt he'd stepped into some other scenario, one he had less control of, and so he blurted out an instinctual question he'd hoarded since he couldn't access her files back at the Southern Reach. "Who the fuck are you, Hargraves? Who are you really?" Was she Jack's third? And, if so, what was her mission, and did it affect Lowry? And he thought it did. It must, the stance she took, the way she regarded him. The way she took her time replying, like she was lining up a target. "Who am I, Lowry? Great question. I'm old Jim's daughter. Not his real daughter, although his real daughter was nothing to write home about. He was better off with me." The false daughter project. She must be lying. He didn't know how to take it, like she'd introduced some element far more alien than anything he had experienced in Area X, so she must be lying. "Look," Lowry said, hoping to take back some kind of control, "why don't you come back to the extraction point with me, and we can sort this all out back at the Southern Reach?" She laughed at that, a disrespectful sound. "Extraction point? You mean crawl back through the tunnel, even though there's no expedition anymore? And no suits?" It's time to go home, Lowry said, thinking he sounded ultra fucking reasonable. Though he didn't really think it was time to go home, just wanted Hargrave's hand a little farther away from her gun. In time, maybe I will come home, except not through the front door, she said. But you'll never know when or how. Maybe I'll disappear, poof, like Jim's real daughter for a while. He might appreciate the poetry of that, you know. He might. From wherever or whenever he's watching now. And he could hear the weight of that, the tremor of emotion in her voice, like she'd just come from a wake, and he guessed she had. She actually had. Come on, Lowry said, and taking a chance, I'm Jack's failsafe. I'm the one embedded with the expedition to take over if anything went wrong, and I say we head for the extraction point. She hesitated, but Lowry understood somehow that he couldn't know what the fuck she was hesitating about, that it might have nothing to do with his question. I knew Jim well. I know Jack, she said, finally, there, as they stood in the wreckage of the village bar, and a new anger burgeoned in her that alarmed him. You're not the failsafe. You're the jackass who takes the attention off the failsafe. Threes, Lowry. Jack always works in threes. But I'm done being that. I never really was that, because some of us at Central actually believe in the future. And you know what I'm going to do if I make it back? I'm going to wipe the whole slate clean, one way or the other. I'm going to be the one who cleans house. I'll be the one, starting with you. Maybe the way she said things mesmerized him, or he was tired and got careless, or just still underestimated her, but Hargraves had her gun trained on him, shot to the chest, and no way could he now raise his rifle in time. You're making a mistake, he said, like he was in a movie of his life, not his actual fucking life. Put the gun down. I have so much to tell you. I have seen so much. No, I don't think so. Because you know what I found in Jim's pockets, along with a few diagrams of an alligator in a secret room? The impossible thing? Fuck, I don't know, Hargraves. Put the gun down. A piece of paper. A piece of paper? And do you know what he had written on it? Drink more milk? Eat more fucking vegetables? Kill Lowry. It read, Kill Lowry. And I've been asking myself how he could even have known your name. What happened after I left he could Okay. What happened after I left that he could... We're going to take her quote from the top. Drink more milk? Eat more fucking vegetables? Kill Lowry. It read, Kill Lowry. And I've been asking myself how he could even have known your name. What happened after I left that he could have known your name? Who gave it to him? Why it was important? But on some level, I've decided it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters why. What do you think, Lowry? I think you should take a breath, Hargraves. Cass, I think you should give this a lot of thought. What it means to... Kill Lowry, it says, Hargraves said, distant. And you know what? I think I will. And then she shot him. Two men in a fucking boat thing. Nothing was better than getting shot. Nothing. To be shot and still be walking around. He couldn't feel his right arm or part of his face, but who the fuck needed part of his face? He could still see, and there was warmth on his left side. And he could move his left arm, and he could sling his knapsack across his back and still hold his machete. Still had that. Wasn't sure where the gun had gone. Was it still shoved into his pants? Who had done that? Hargraves? No, Hargraves had shot him. He must have done it. But she'd been quick on the draw. Too quick. Just muscle memory that got him out the doorway. And she didn't follow? Was he too far dead for it to matter? The lighthouse was shining in his face, on the back of his neck, from all positions, no matter how he moved, and only with difficulty and time did the marshes become clear to him, or even the path he shuffled forward on, back to the extraction point. What if there was no suit? Would he attempt the corridor without one? He'd have to. And then there on the horizon, parallel to his horizon, on another raised berm trail far out, there was a figure gambolling about, swinging its arms and shouting, or was it screaming? Was it him? His own true doppelganger? This was his first thought. With difficulty he put binoculars up to the side of his face that wasn't numb. Landry. Landry coked up. Landry on meth. Landry clearly on whatever he had left, and Lowry crowed in triumph. Landry had made it. At least, made it for now. A salute and a shout out to him, going out with a bang, not a whimper, but the shout came out as a croak, and Landry couldn't hear him, and suddenly Lowry felt nauseous and like a hammer had come down on top of his head, and he staggered and his binoculars swung back against his chest like someone was giving him CPR, and he concentrated, one blade of grass at a time, on the trail in front of him, with the lighthouse still stabbing into him from every direction, and Landry would just have to fend for himself and come down from the drugs on his own, and holy fuck, that would be the greatest withdrawal of all time. In the most inhospitable place. But a short time later he came across Landry again, this time next to that damned green boat that undulated and ebbed and flowed in its boatness in a disturbing fucking way. A way he didn't care for, that made him think Landry had gone space age in the excess of his personal drug use, and even Lowry felt fucking unsettled by it. The gleam in Landry's eyes, the way that Landry seemed to have transcended speech but for odd burblings and burstings forth of phrase that said, "Get in the boat," so convincingly that Lowry got in the boat, because he was tired and fading, and it was better being in the boat with this Landry than being not in the boat and not with Landry. And Landry had the bag of drugs with him, though Lowry felt fucking good for now. Maybe just because he had someone to talk to who was not the murderer Karen Hargraves, the anti-Sky, and not a Winters who had fallen from a great height and lied about the boat before. Even the lighthouse in the distance, reimagined, felt, or maybe Lowry just fucking hoped, like a newborn thing, a creature that did not yet know the full desire or strength of its own engines. Did it intuit its damn purpose? Flow to flow, the Geiger clicking somewhere. That they at times seemed to be motoring toward rather than away as they hugged the coast with no hint of an engine to propel them, but not using the oars either. Well, as he said to Landry, that was the fucking shitting pissing yourself bastard part of special ops, of expeditions, of the things you just had to do. Landry smiled so very, very wide, he was clearly high, and said, "That's rad, man. That's profound." But the words felt fuzzy meeting Lowry's eyeballs, to his mouth-ear hearing them. "Do you know how you're sounding to others, my glorious Landry? You hurt your own drugs now, not the other way around. You're so fucking high. Enumerate. Reconstitute. Something I forgot." There was the wind, yes, and the crashing birds that seemed to have forgotten how to fly sometimes, and dashed themselves like glass against rock on the surface of the ocean, and the ones who seemed to have learned to fly too well and were so far distant and high up that he wondered if they might fly away to the moon. He tried not to notice the loops of sea creatures in the water, and the feeling that the shore wanted to eat them like a mouth. Had the drugs made the fucking birds high? Sprinkling them over the goddamn water. "We could just fly out to the sea and never come back," Landry said. "Just keep flying around. Just do that. Do that thing. What did I say?" "Sail. Motor. Not fly." "There's sauce out there, and I want all of it. I want to walk into the sauce and eat it all." "Not walking, swimming. Not sauce. Water." "Glide like kings and get the sauce just for us." "Fucking swim, motherfucker. Sail, asshole. I mean, Landry, what the fuck are you on? 'Cause I'm taking the same stuff." "You tell me, Lowry. Tell me." The flushed, peaked look to Landry's face. Or is it peaked? The flushed, peaked look to Landry's face, the carnivorous shadows around his face. Surely cavernous, but no, carnivorous fit the moment. The tremor to his hands, which seemed to be growing mangroves out of them like a boss. "Do you like boats, Landry?" Just to change the subject. Just to look away from old mangrove hands. "No, not boats. Not boats at all. Yes, but we are not in a boat." And Landry was right. It wasn't really a boat, was it? He just wanted to think it was a boat, to escape Hargraves. It was some creature, long and low against the water, and they motored in the shallows within the shadow of its mouth, and the safety railing he thought was the edge of the boat was actually a row of teeth. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. "Landry, this isn't fucking right. This is all wrong." "This is all wrong, Lowry." "What the fuck even?" "What the fuck even?"
Shut up.
"Shut up."
Holy fuck.
"Holy fuck."
Stop it, you fuck.
"Okay."
Okay. Blort.
Or something like blort, as if to blurt was to lunge. Because that was when Landry lunged at him, and Lowry had to shoot him in the face and then plunge over the side as the mouth tried to close over them both. Then it was a hard, long slog from the shore to the border extraction point, more and more of him paralyzed, that damn half-face Landry shadowing him from afar and saying shit that was pointless now, like they were not going to have a productive conversation after what had gone down, but as long as Landry obeyed the restraining order in Lowry's head and stayed more than 500 feet away from the kick to curb of Lowry's boots, it was cool. Or cool enough. Lord, he was feeling weak and perturbed and hot, and the wheel and wreck of the heavens was full of knives that gleamed and kept together like flocks of glittery sharp clouds or flocks of birds, and he just wanted to make it to the border was all. That was all he wanted. Even with fake Landry out there, holding up the bags of drugs like he was a candy master on some dark ritualistic night, wrangling that candy for the kids. Wrangling that candy while Rome burnt like a candle, like a flame, in the vessel of his brain. Third skin. For a time, then, Lowry felt like he was unconscious but walking still, and for a time, too, as if he had fallen in, footstep for footstep, with the marching soldiers of scientists and psychics approaching the distant green light of the future, as if he were in their ranks, but when he came to, instead, the hole in the ground, the corridor entrance lay in front of him, even though he had a nagging thought in the back of his head that he was not himself, and even more of his body had gone numb. And was it the bullet, or was it something else? The second skin that had always made him queasy, had made him shocked and shockend, and fuck, that wasn't a word, but it was in his head. The suit right there, and all he had to do was put it on. But it was illuminated somehow by the lighthouse rays, and he could see refracted back how the suit was moving. Every inch of the suit moved in a subtle way, as if it were less a second skin than millions of tiny organisms trying to provide the illusion of being a suit. But what if that was just his wound talking? What if he was so fucked up that the suit was normal and his fucking paranoia had commandeered his senses and his common sense? Because he had to put on the suit. Because he had to make it down the corridor if he wanted to live. If he wanted to bring back the critical, the vital info he only half recalled. He believed he could feel the bullet inside him, like a cold, dead weight, like something you'd put on a tiny scale before you paid out for nuggets of gold found by some dumb fuck miner up in the mountains of a state you never visited but kept telling friends you would go camping in. Ah, but the numbness hurt. It hurt so much, and he wished maybe he could go back to being scales that became eyes from which issued the golden dust. There was the suit. There was the corridor. He could make it out. He had to make it out. He'd be a hero. He'd be able to set his own terms. He might even run the joint one day. If he could only make it out, he might be the one to defeat Area X. He might be the one. If only. If only. If only he were himself. And of that he could not be sure. Slowly, with great difficulty, he dropped his knapsack. He dropped his binoculars. He undressed and, naked, stood before his suit, and his suit spoke to him and said, "Are you ready?" And he said, "Fuck yeah, I'm ready." But he stood like that, half toppled, for a long time. For a very long time, wondering what to do next. Because he was, as far as anyone knew, the last survivor of the first expedition. Because something felt important about that he could not put a finger on because he could not feel his fingers. If he could just get into the suit. If he could just get into the suit. And the suit said, "Don't worry, Lowry. I'll help you get into the suit." And he said, "I'm scared." Because he was scared and couldn't stop crying. And the suit said, jauntily, "Don't be scared. Just get into me. Just let me cover you up. Just let me just cover this all up." But still he was afraid. "You see that Hargraves suit?" He'd been wandering aimless a bit, lost sight of the horizon, even, or the point. "She passed through here a while back." Good." And yeah, he was happy for her. Just like he was happy for Skye if she had managed to make it to that destroyer, and maybe it had even turned into a spaceship and lifted her into the sky and into a better life than this shit. For this truly had turned to shit, hadn't it? And he wasn't going to be a hero, was he? But maybe, just maybe, Hargraves was another Landry, splintered into 1,000 parts, and no fucking shard of diamond left in the middle to put into a ring and offer in a room full of dead things in jars. Maybe she was the dream, and he would still make it back and she wouldn't. Never couldn't. Never ever would. Just him. "Maybe I am the last and I'm going home." "If you're talking to me," the suit said, "you're long gone, my friend." "Landry?" "No, Landry's been dead for a while." Lowry was in a bad way, it seemed, given how ripped up the suit was, or how it was ripping itself in new ways to bind him into it more securely. "Anyone else pass through?" "I told you. Hargraves. She made it through." "Got any of the good drugs left?" "Yeah, in my suit." Oh, it's supposed to be Landry's voice, whatever.
"But you're all suit."
"Ain't that right?" If he craned his neck, Lowry could see a vision of him. If he craned his neck, Lowry could see a version of himself that was better than this, somewhere on the horizon, but not here. Not here. And maybe he didn't need to be. Maybe he didn't need to be. Maybe for now this was what he needed to be.
"I just need to sit for a bit, suit," Lowry said, "and then we'll cross over."
There was comfort in the thought, how if only he could make it across, nothing would change. And the suit nodded at him, and they watched the sun set over that beautiful fucking place together, propped up against a log, and it was all right, and fucking good, even. For a time. And that was Absolution by Jeff Vandermeer. Yup. So that was quite a book. Uh, similar weirdness, similar but different weirdness to what we get in the rest of the Area X series, and similar but different weirdness to what is in the book Dead Astronauts, which is a sequel, sort of, to Born, both also by Jeff Vandermeer. So, wild, wild stuff. And thus we have confirmed that, no duh, the Lowry that comes back is not really Lowry, is it? Probably. It's more Area X stuff. That the suit is also maybe another member of the expedition is a whole another can of worms. But then again, Lowry's an unreliable narrator. One of the great recurring themes of the series is that the perspective character, that is your narrator character, is a very bad or unreliable narrator. They do not tell you things, or the things they tell you are maybe correct in one sense, but very, very wrong in others. They miss certain details that are essential in the case of, say, control. Um, so yeah, I guess pet theory time. Um, I think it's fairly clear that Whitby is probably the rogue. Um, that seems fairly clear. I'm not sure who Hargraves/Cass is. It could be what's her name, um, the assistant director, whose name eludes me at the moment. Um, what is her name? It could be her. I don't read her with the same voice because I'm honestly not sure. Um, but then it's kind of sad that she goes back because she finds something more important to live for in the form of the psychologist slash what's her name, the little girl who turns into the shrink, who turns into the Area X, the Annihilation psychologist, and also the director of Southern Reach for some period of time. Anyway, I don't know that it's her. I kind of don't think it is, but it's not impossible. It is nice that at least she is of the opinion that there are some at Central that want to actually save the future if they can, um, which kind of shows that there are more things going on at once than we know about. Because if a future timeline Whitby went back in time to keep Area X from being worse, because Area X wants to go back further in time and corrupt four-dimensionally as opposed to just three-dimensionally, then it's problematic. But you also have like miscommunications happening between everyone, and because it's all timey-wimey, mickety muckety bullshit, then who knows the chicken or the egg versus the bootstrap at that point? I don't even know. It's baffling stuff. Lots of possibilities, some questions answered, but who knows what's really going on anymore anyway. Um, yep. I'm not sure. Well, old Jim doesn't come back. I don't think for Annihilation or either of the other two. Really, the big question is who's with who does for me is if Hargraves did indeed go through the corridor, who is she? Maybe that's the story of the fifth book that has not come out, that isn't done being written yet. Maybe that's Hargraves' book. I don't know. Slash Cass. Um, but I'm not sure. If people think they know who Hargraves is, feel free to leave a comment. I'm happy to see people's thoughts. I think I'm reasonably confident that Whitby is the rogue, um, because too many things sync up too well. So evidence for Whitby being the rogue. First of all, after eating the molt that he was told expressly not to eat. Now there's a question right there: is does it say do not eat because that guarantees that he's going to eat it, or is it saying do not eat because it genuinely doesn't want him to eat it? Who knows? Probably it is the former, and it's reverse psychology because that sort of thing seems to work on our boy Lowry. Seems the sort of thing that would work on him. Anyway, so the information flowing into his brain as he's losing his mind and it's seeping into him, into Lowry's brain, seems to indicate that indeed it is Whitby from a future timeline. It's not the Whitby he knew necessarily. Um, Other evidence, I think the biggest evidence in its favor for me is how the rogue has set up this dark, hidden in a storage closet slash attic nest where he's got a bunch of pictures and names and information in a crazy person diagram strewn all over the walls. which mirrors that scene in Authority, where Control, pats Whitby, which is just like, why would you do this? I cannot imagine a single scenario in which you would do this thing when he's just crouched there being a little freak, in the dark. So that I think is some of the biggest evidence in favor of Whitby being because it's the behavior matches up. And Whitby keeps saying things that he shouldn't probably know, that seem unlikely for him to know, like even to Lowry. He's saying stuff like, "Oh well, did you hear about the chicken?" And it's like, well, how did you find out about the chicken exactly? So I don't know. Interesting stuff. It's a fun book. Very difficult to read aloud, so any misreading is entirely my fault, and I apologize for it accordingly. But yeah, pretty wild stuff. Hope people enjoyed. I know I did. Getting to say fuck every other word was cute. The novelty wore off pretty quick because it makes it real hard to like. It's already a difficult book to read, but then when like sentences are spaced out in such a way that fuck is every other word, it's even trickier. So yeah, we'll probably go on a break from Jeff Vandermeer for a little while. I would like to read Ambergris aloud, as well as I'll probably do Born as well. That has some of the same. Born and especially Dead Astronauts have some of this. Well, Dead Astronauts is just baffling. Born has some of the narrative ideas in terms of use of words that sound the same but are spelled differently. Um, in spades, Born has that. So that's something that's part of his style now. That developed shortly with or shortly after Born. We'll get around to those. I can't guarantee that I'm going to read all of his library on stream. Some I'll probably just give a pass to, but Ambergris I think is worth it. That I enjoyed. And Born was fun. I mean, Born's wild. It's all fun and games until you get to a certain character slash entity, and that concept gets explained, and you're like, uh, uh, a giant what? Telekinetic who? Uh, what? Yeah. Things get weird. Let's see. So next Wednesday, tentatively, we will start reading Down Below Station by C.J. Sherry. Not 100% sure I'll do it, but pretty close to 100% because it's time. It's time to move things along so I can start trundling towards Cytine, um, which I consider highly worthwhile as a book. I can't remember if if that book was my first introduction to C.J. Sherry or not. Certainly, it was the first one I was very conscious that it was her that I read. But I might have read something else before that by her, and I can't remember what it would be. Um, it wasn't Down Below Station, and it wasn't Rim Runners. It might have been Rim Runners. Maybe Tripoint? No, I didn't read Tripoint till after Down Below, I don't think. I can't remember now. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Mondays, we still got a couple more installments of the first collector's edition of Full Metal Panic. We still have at least um, one more installment for Book 2, Rampaging One Night Stand, and then there'll be probably like 3 for Book 4 as well. Book 3, sorry, 3 for Book 3 as well. Fridays, we still have more of the Lazarus Effect to look forward to. We're about halfway done, the Lazarus Effect. We'll be about 2/3 of the way done after this Friday. Things are moving in a big way. Derpy Shark says, I was hoping this book would provide a lot of answers to what is up with Area X, but it definitely raises more questions. It was a fun listen, though. I'm glad it was a fun listen.
Um, I also want to give a big shout out to whoever has taken these images of books in the Area X series that have been waterlogged and like are in standing water. They've been invaluable for final cover images that I use. I've been very thankful to them because they're just so appropriate. I don't know if there's one for every single one. There was one for Annihilation and there's one for this one. I can't remember if there was one for authority or acceptance. So, predictions. What will be the fourth A-letter word title? Fifth A-letter word title for the fifth volume. I'm. What will be the title of the fifth Area X novel? It's got to start with an A. Acclamation? Who knows? Anyway, hope people enjoyed. I think that will do it. I don't think I've got anything more intelligent to say. I thought there was some other reveal. I did kind of like some of the insight that the book gave in terms of how Jack operates, Jack Severance, and also that there is a more detailed thing going on between Jack Severance and Jackie Severance. Um, they aren't necessarily on the same page. Now, I don't think that Jackie Severance is necessarily a member of Central that's trying to save the future. Um, I think she's too close. She's raised by Jack, for starters. She's just too close to the Jack thing in order for that to be the case. So she's kind of her own thing. Jack is certainly a rogue agent, um, hands down, like no question. This book makes that abundantly clear. He is not operating under the same rules. He is a phantom in his way. He is a phantom with a capital P, as old Jim mentions that concept. Uh, so yeah, it's a hell of a book. But yeah, no, it definitely raises a lot more questions than it answers, which is, I guess, kind of the point of the Area X series. Is every time you have an opportunity to answer questions, you might answer some of them, and then you'll reveal details and then make things infinitely stranger. Like acceptance kind of was like the up until this book is the ultimate table flip on, oh, you thought you understood what Area X was. Well, it's above and beyond that. You thought you understood what the setting was doing, what characters and the history and the setting was. Well, it's more than that. And then Absolution is like, hey, how can we make that even more baffling? By turning it into a time travel plot, because why not? Not my favorite decision. As far as prequels go, I'm moderately satisfied with it. I think I've made mention of the fact that I'm not a huge fan of prequels because they have to have there's a defined status quo that has to occur sometime after the prequel. You know this. That's a thing. It has to end up a certain way. And so it's like, oh, okay, then just enjoy the journey of how to get there. And I'm like, I can't really, because I know that anything I'm seeing that seems like dramatic tension is basically pointless. Because I know that either such and such a character is dead, such and such a character is alive, or whatever. The Area X series has the unique quality of, oh, you don't know, you might have characters who've been introduced and you don't know if they're, non-doppelgangers or not, if they're originals, real McCoys, for a given value of what that matters, um, how much that matters. Lowry being revealed as, oh, it's he's almost definitely been like eaten away by Area X and then turned into a doppel him. That's kind of a no duh, because you know just from Annihilation that there's no way you go into Area X and come out unscathed. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. Um, and we know that that Lowry is a messed up cookie. We know he's a deeply messed up person because of our interactions with him and what we hear about him in acceptance. We know he's messed up. This explains why he's messed up. I'm surprised he's at all functional at all, even remotely. What I'm not super clear on is how they were able to get how and when he was able to get out film recording footage, because they have like film evidence from the first expedition in Authority, do they not? And we don't really hammer home that fact with Lowry. So maybe Hargraves brings it back? I'm not totally sure. That and how just devices don't work properly in Area X. It's less that they don't work at all, it's more that they turn into something else because Area X like converts things into systems, I guess. Organisms, typically organized systems, living systems, sort of, and it makes analogs for those. And it's kind of like I can see like a broad vision of what Jeff Vandermeer is talking about with how Area X operates, but I can't articulate it very well. In how it's sort of this all-consuming thing. It's completely inimical and anathema to our way of existence, but it makes sense. And up until this book, it sort of seemed to have rules, and now that it can go through time, it kind of doesn't, but maybe still does. Um, if we get a few more Jeff Vandermeer books that touch on some similar ideas, I will share my unified theory of Jeff Vandermeerdom. Um, and how all things might in fact be connected, but I can't really do that until without doing massive spoilers. I can't do that for a while. Um, what I find interesting is some shared imagery occurs between different books, some similar concept work, um, and we'll get into those when we get to them. But yeah, that'll do it up for me. Hope people enjoyed. I had fun. Like I've said before, I will keep doing these until they aren't fun. But it'll be a long time before that because I'll have to go through pretty much my entire book collection before that occurs. And some of those I've never read. Haha. So it'll be fun for me and for you. And when people bring me their own suggestions, then that's new stuff for me to read. I'm always open to suggestions. I can't guarantee I'll actually read through them, but I'm always open to them. Um, yep. Okay, that's it. Hope people dug it. The end of the month is coming up pretty quick, so I'll be organizing playlists at that point. I might do it in advance of Monday. Yeah, might just do it this weekend, probably like Saturday. Worst case, I'll do it next week. But yeah, that'll all get organized and up. Um, yep. And I want to apologize to the guy who said, "Why do you say much ado um, without further ado?" And then do some further ado, and I don't have an intelligent response to that. I gave a rambling, incoherent mishmash of garbage, and I apologize for that. Gayatri 555. It was late at night and I was tired. I have no excuse. Um, it's because I'm distractible. I'm very distracted. I'm very scatterbrained, apparently, or I wouldn't do it. All right. Yep, we are still, as far as I know, I've got nothing weird coming up in terms of schedule interruptions, so everything will pretty much just keep rocking and a rolling on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noonish Eastern Standard Time, UTC -5, or US East Coast time, whichever is easier for you to work with, if you choose to tune in live. Otherwise, just keep listening to them after the fact. I don't care. I don't mind. It's totally fine. As ever, I don't do these for money. I almost hope I'm never offered the choice because I don't want to have my lesser angels or better demons tell me what to do or start influencing me. Until now, I have the out of being like, well, it's not an option, so easy. But I will, even if I were, I do not want to. I wouldn't want to shill a product anyway. The only products I'll shill are ones that are actually useful, like books. I will shill books. I will shill books to forever. I'll also generally recommend that if you want actual professional quality book on tape work, audiobook work, you should probably seek out people who do it professionally, not me. If you're going for a vibe of somebody's just reading to you live, like over a campfire or at your bedside or right behind you, then maybe this would be the way to do it. It's not perfect. It's grimy. It's scuffed. It's gritty. It doesn't always work. And when you've got a book that's as baffling as Absolution is,
then it's even harder. Or I think I handled this slightly better than I did The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, but I always hold that one up as, man, I was overly ambitious with that one. I like that book a lot more than I am capable of reading it, if that makes any sense. But it's a great book. Oh my gosh, just for the cell-based diagram, the cell-based revolutionary cell infrastructure diagrams that it has and explanations of how to do that. Just for that alone, it's worth your time. Um, I'm not saying it's knowledge you need to have at the present moment, but it might not be bad to have. Certainly, I don't see a downside. I'm still chipping away in my own time, getting through my reread of Endymion. When I'm done that, say it'll be like 6 months or so before I get to around to reading it on stream. So I'm tentatively thinking um, a little before the start of next year. Um, Somebody did ask for Street Lethal. I think enough time by Stephen Barnes that has percolated enough at this point that I could probably get around to that. I might wind up doing that next Wednesday instead of CJ Sherry down below station. Um, we'll see. I do need to get down below station done though because it's really good. It's also fairly long. It takes a while to get through that one, so we'll see. Yeah, that's about it. Nothing intelligent elsewhere on my mind at this point. Yeah. If you want to chat about stuff outside of the stream or the comments section, you can hop into the Discord channel that I have a link to. I will fix that for Twitch in the channel description. I meant to do that a week ago and I forgot. I will do that, or days ago, but I forgot. Um, anyway, that's it. See you all later. Stay safe. Stay safe.